Hello, welcome to part 4 of how to create a CRUD application in PHP using jQuery AJAX and HTML5 admin template. In the last video, we were looking at how to use AJAX to prevent reloading of the page once the user submits requests to the backends. For example, saving of data and retrieving of data or editing of data from the front end. We were able to integrate data tables in our application. We were able to create, edit, delete, and update records within our application, thus achieving our goal of having an application that allows us to interact with the backend without refreshing the page, thanks to AJAX. So today I want us to look at how we are going to log into our application and maintain sessions such that a user must be logged in first before they can be able to access and use the application. The application will also allow the user to log out whenever they want, and once they are logged in, once they are logged out, they must log in again for them to be able to access and use the application. So stay put. Ensure that you subscribe to my channel if you are new. Also like, comment, and share these videos as much as possible so that they may reach a great number of people that they may be of help to. So this is where we were in our last tutorial. These are the records we managed to create. So I just want us to continue using matrix admin template for the remaining part of the tutorial, and I hope by the end of this tutorial you will be in a position to create a complete web application using Bootstrap admin templates, using AJAX and PHP. So we shall go back to our matrix admin template. Remember, I had downloaded mine. I'm also hoping that you did download yours. So I am going back to my matrix admin template. Let me see where I saved it. So Bootstrap admin template. So it is here. So it is here. I'll open HTML. So we want to explore more features that this particular template has, so that we may be able to integrate them into our application. So we'll go back to index. We load index page within our web browser. Then the next thing we are going to look at is the design of the login form of this particular template. So we'll go to this section here, then logout. Is it there? No. Okay, let us just go back to the folder, then check under our files here whether we have a login page that we can use in our application. So we have here an HTML file that is called authentication login. Then we have another one called authentication register. So remember, before a user can access any system, they must first register. It's either the system allows them to register themselves by providing them with a form, or the admin of the system can create the account within the system, then they'll be able to log in. So let us look at both files and see how they appear. So these are sample login form. for the Bootstrap admin, for the Matrix admin template. Then we have here a register form or authentication form. So let us just open it and see how it appears. So this is a register form. So in this particular application, I want us to create an application that will allow the user to register first before they can log in. So we will come back here and see. So here we have login, then here we have register. So I want us to create a page. I want us to create a page within our application. So we'll open Sublime Text, open it. Okay, so this is where we were in our last tutorial. That was part 3. We are still continuing with the files that we had. So whatever we are going to do is just to create a new folder within dev and call it, and just call it users. See, it's the folder, not a file. So within dev we create a new folder and call it users, like that. So within users we are going to create 2 files. We are going to create the login and the register, or alternatively you can just create one file. Then we will show either of the section, either login or the register section, depending on where the user is. So let us just create one file here and we will name it login.php, like that. So it is within users, as you can see. And remember, in this particular file, we are not going to use the template that we created under layout, that is the header and the footer template, because as you can see here, this one has its own layout that doesn't conform with this layout here. So we are going to use a different layout for login and register. Then after registration, then after logging in, we'll be able to use the header and footer templates or files that we created here. So under login, I just want us to copy the entire login code. Then we will integrate the register code within it. So let us view source. So we are copying everything, then we are pasting it here, like that. So let us check the paths to the style sheets and the scripts. So here from users, go back one step to dev, like that. Then after dev, we go back one step to lists. Then you get CSS and JS. So the path is okay. Or what you can do is just to test this application, the login page, and see if it is running as we expect. So this is where our login page is. It is within dev, then users. So instead of naming this login, I just want us to rename it to index. I want us to rename this file to index. So this one changes from login to index.php. What I'm trying to do is to avoid having the extension of the file displayed in the URL, because remember I told you when you have an index page, is like a landing page. So whenever you type up to the folder that contains that particular file, it will automatically load the index. So if we go back to our application is here. So instead of going to test, now we are going to users. Let us see how it appears. As you can see, it is displaying the same way it was displaying there. So still, you are not restricted to this kind of arrangement. You can still try to adjust your application to suit your needs. For example, you can change the logo here and the name. You can change the username, not the username, but generally the colors of this particular login page and so on. So within this application, I want us to add the register page. And before we add the register page, I just want us to change this from Matrix admin to test application. So we go to our login form. As you can see here, the ID is login form, action is index.html. Don't want it to have an action because actually you are going to submit data using AJAX. So remember, in AJAX you don't need to specify the method and action. All that will be done within AJAX. So let us move down. So what I want us to do is to add here an element which we shall call register. We can put it right below lost password or below login. So, but before we do that, we need to create a div. Just want to see where these div closes. So I'm following. So this is where it closes. So what I want us to do is to copy the code for register. Here's the register. So register is here. I want us to copy this code for register or sign up, then place it within our application. So I will view the page source. Then I will not copy from .type HTML. Instead, what I want us to copy is just the section that contains the register part. So I want us to copy from here where login box.css is ending up to where it is starting. So it is here, it's starting here. So we are going to place this code within our application like this. So we rename this to register. That this one also will be named to register. So I want us to see how it will appear once we do this. So back to our application. Let us refresh and see. Is it showing? Yes, it is showing. So the only thing we need to do is to create a div that can be hidden. Is to create a div that we can hide and show based on which section of the page that the user wants to visit. So we come back here. There is a section that we want to keep constant. Like now here, this matrix admin section will remain constant because, as you can see, it is within register or sign up, and also within login. So I will come back here. Then after the logo, we have a form here. So before this form, I want us to create a div, and we should give it an ID. So div ID equals to login. Let's just call it div login. So we shall close this div after the form. So where does the form end? The form ends here. So we shall close this div here like that. So you can just indent it a bit, then we push these ones inwards like that. So after the login div, now this is the login div. I want us to create another div here. There is another div here for recover, which I want us to remove first. So we're going to remove the entire code for recover. Recover is up to, let me see, we need to know how many divs come before. So we have two divs after coming after form, so it should end here like this. Okay, so this one closes there. That is div login. This one closes here. Then this one closes here. This one closes there. So this is okay. So I want us to copy the register code. We're not going to copy the entire code. We're only going to copy the form part. So I want us to copy this part of the form. Register. Where does the form end? So the form ends here. We are going to copy. Just want us to cut it, not even copy. So we will cut the code and place it here. So we shall place it there, but before we place it, I want us to create a div again. So div ID equals to register. Call this div login. So let us just call it div register. Then we will close it like that. So within div register is where we are going to paste our code like that. So we shall just indent it inward a bit. So it starts here. So we can just indent it a bit like that. So remember, there is a CSS class we created for a hidden element. Within CSS we had custom.css. So we created this CSS for a hidden element, which by default will not display. So we shall call this class within our code, so that by default, the register div will be hidden. So we just give it a class equals to hidden element like that. Give it a class equals to hidden element. Or let us remove this class and see first how it displays before we can now introduce the hidden element class. So let us refresh and see. So this is how our code will be appearing, but we don't want it to appear like this. We only want the sign up part to appear when the user clicks on button. So we shall come back here and reintroduce our hidden element. So just undo and save. Then let us try to refresh and see. It is still appearing. Write the correct spans, hidden element. Let us go back to custom. So it is hidden element. Remember, there's something we haven't done. We have not included this custom.css file within our code. So we need to include this file within our code here. So we just create another link. So link href equals to. So if we are in users, for us to get to CSS, we just go back one step, then CSS, then custom dot CSS like that. Then of course it is a style sheet like that. So remember, I told you, if you don't include a class or a script within your code, if you don't call it, then you cannot use it. The rule is first call it before you can use it. So now we have included the style sheet within our code. Let us save, then come back here and refresh and see what will happen. So as you can see, the register code is no longer appearing within this login area. So we can introduce a button or a link for register. So let us just add this link after the login button. So after the login button, I want us to create another button. So let us just put it here, or let us copy this, then we just change a few things. So copy that, btn success float, right, type will be, it has just return it to type button. Then we say new user. So we can put this one here, new user question mark. Then now they'll click on the button. They will click on the button to register like that. So new user, you have to register. So let us see how this button will appear here. So it is not appearing well. What we will do is we will break here, do a break, then we can now see how it appears. Still not appearing properly. Let us give it a float. Let us remove the float right property so that the default position becomes left. So this one looks better. We can add another break here to just increase the space between the two buttons, so we can refresh. So as you can see, it is now appearing properly. So we have lost password, login, register, then that is new user, register. So we want to do this. Once the user clicks on register, we want to display the register form and hide the login form. So we shall come back here to this button and give it an action. So on click equals to register, which is a function. So this is a JavaScript function, register. So that is for user. So let us just create a JavaScript file here, call it new file, then we call it post login.js. So we shall create a function here, function register, like that. But before this, I want us to create a variable called btn register equals to. So we need to give this button an ID equals to btn register, like that. So we have given it the ID btn register. So we want to get the element, we want to assign this ID or btn register to document dot get element by ID, and the ID is btn register. So that is how it will be. So if the function is register, then I want us to go back and check. We want to display this div, then hide this div here. So we want to hide the login form, then display the register. We have the, let us rename it to div login. Then where we have div login, oh, it is already here, so no problem. So we want to hide div login and display div register. So that means we will have to create again. We don't need to create an element for this. Let us just call this div login. So here we are getting the element that has the ID of the div, not the button. So it is div login. Then we create another variable for div register, like that. So once you click on the register button, you want to hide div login dot style dot display equals to none. That's how we hide div login. Then div register is now the one that is visible. So dot display equals to block, like that. So let us just refresh our page, then see. So when you click on register, it's working. It is not working because we haven't added the JavaScript file to our code. So we need to come back here, then add our JavaScript file. So we shall just add here our JavaScript file. So we do a script, type is text of JavaScript. So source equals to, so while in users we need to go back one step up to JS, then we find post login.js. So it is one step up to JS, then post login.js. That so we can save this, then come back here and refresh our code. So when you click on register, as you can see, the login form is disappearing, then the sign up form is appearing. But then while in sign up, it may be that the user clicked on register by mistake. So we just need to create another button here that will return the user to login. So in register or sign up, we just create a button below it. Below this sign up button, you can just rename it to register like that. So below this register button, we will do again a break it twice like that. Then we create another button for. Now this one we give it an ID, but we don't need to give it an ID, just need to give it an action. And this one will not be a submit button, but we shall just call it button. So we just need to give it an action on click equals to login like that. So it's a function, so it is btn info, so we can just leave it where it is. So you can come back here and refresh and see. So when you click on register, it is showing. So we need to rename this to login. Need to rename this to login like that. And you can refresh and see. So that is how it is. We can remove this break because the distance between them seems to be too big. So we can refresh, then register. As you can see, this is register, this is login. So now we need to create another function for login within our JavaScript. So we come back to post login.js. Then we create another button, we call it login. So when you click on login, is the reverse that is going to happen. So the div login is going to display block, or in short, it's going to be visible. Then div register is going to be invisible. So we can refresh, then as you can see, register, then login. So the code is working. So the next thing we are going to do is now to create code for register, because we need to register first before we can log in. So in our register code, we need to have a username, an email address, a password. Then we'll confirm the password and continue with the registration. So for us to do this, we need to create a database. So let us just come back here. Then we create a database, not a database but a table. Remember, we already have a database, so you just add another table for users. Okay, so here we have a database. We just go back to database. Then we create a table. We give it the name. Say test users. That's how many columns. You can let them before. You can still add more if you wish to, based on our needs. So our first column as usual will be ID. Then it is an auto increment field, which is a primary key. So we just allow that like this. Then we will need the name of the person who is logging in. We will need to add this name to our register form, because we need to identify the person that is logging in the application by the username and also by their actual names. So we'll come back here and create the columns. So the first column is, you can just call it name, then give it a varchar of say 25 or 30, take 30, then you can leave it there. The next column is email. It will be type text, you can give it 30. Okay. Then we have password. I want us to give it varchar. Then we can give it the biggest number possible. You can give it around 250 because the password will be encrypted, so it will require a bigger field size for it to fit. I want us to make the email unique, so just give it a unique attribute here, because you don't want the email to be repeated. You can just say UNQ email, that's the index name, like that. Then after the password, I want us to add some 2 more columns here, which whose function I will explain. So add 2 more buttons here. So we shall add confirmed. No, let us not confirm. We'll add 1, not 2. So we'll add another column called reset code, or we can just add confirmed. So we shall have confirmed, then it will be of type boolean, so it is a true or false. So by default it will have the value 0, which means it is not confirmed. I'll tell you it is work. So reset token, we shall give it a varchar. And because it will also be encrypted, we can give it a value of 250. So for these last 2 fields that we have added, they'll be used for resetting purposes. So sometimes you may want, or it is common practice for applications to send the reset codes to the user via email or even sometimes text. So this is where this code will be stored, that is in the reset token. Then when you create an account, sometimes it may be required that this the confirmation link is sent to your email so that you can confirm before you can log in. So this one is a status that will show whether the user has logged in, has confirmed the account or not. But in this tutorial we are not going to use these 2 fields. We shall use them in the next tutorials after this. That's when we shall be looking at how we can now integrate email validation or we can use the email to receive the confirmation links and even reset codes. So for now, you can just have them within our table, but we will not use them. So after that, we can save our table. We are saying column email used in key specification without a key length. So we can just come back to email. We gave it type text. I want us to change it to type marker 30, and we can save. Now we have our test users table. So within register, we are going to add another. We are going to add another field called name. So here we have where is our table? Look at the structure. So we have name, email, then password. So you only have 3 fields. So instead of username, in this case, I want us to use name, email, then password. So we shall use email and password to log in as opposed to username. So I want us to edit this register form here. So our form doesn't have an action, but we'll give it an ID and call it reg form. Then here we shall call this name. Label is name. Last placeholder is name. Label is name. Then it is required. Okay, so we shall give it an ID of name and give it a name of name. So remember, the name should match the field name in the database. Then next, we shall call this email address, which is okay. Then we have password. Then so email address, we give it a name. Give it a name email. Then ID email. Then password. Name is password, then ID is password, like that. Then confirm password, we shall just give it an ID. ID equals to confirm. I'll just call it confirm P, like that. Then the rest can remain as it is. So let us just refresh here and see if there are any changes. So register, as you can see, it is now displaying. So what do we want to do? We want to create JavaScript code that will assist us to post this particular data that is entered into this form. So remember, we gave this form an ID. The ID of this form is reg form. So we come back to post login. Then we do a jQuery select of our reg form. Then we do on submit. So when the form is submitted, what happens? Want to create a function, the variable e. Then within this function, the first thing we are going to do is to prevent the default action, which is to submit the form. So we shall prevent that default action like that. Then the next thing we are going to do is to create a variable. Before we create the variable, I just want us to go back to our form and first confirm that everything is in place. So confirm password is required, password is required. So everything is in place. Most of the validation has been done within the form. So every field has been set to required. So there's no need of us checking within JavaScript to see whether the fields have values, because we've already set them as required. So we shall just create a variable data and equate it to new form data. So we are just creating an instance of form data, new form data. Then next thing we are going to do before we can submit this data, remember we have password and confirm password. So we just want to check whether the password that was sent, the password that was set is the same as the confirm password. So that means after e.prevent default, we are going to create a variable for name and equate it to name. Remember in this form, the ID. Remember I told you when we are doing JavaScript we call the ID. When we are doing when we are serializing, we'll be passing the names. But in this case, we are not serializing because there are some validation checks that we need to do. That is why we shall be appending each variable to the form data one by one. So var name equals to name dot val. That's how we get the value of the field. Then we shall create another variable, call it email, and equate it to email value and add in email. We shall create another variable, call it password, and equate it to password. Then we shall create another variable called confirm password. Let me just copy this and use it here. So we call it confirm. Let me just check the ID, exact ID that we use. It is confirm p. So this one is confirm p. So we shall be getting the value of the confirm p field. So before we create the instance of form data, we need to first check if password is equal to confirm password. Then first we shall check if it is not equal to. Then we raise an alert that tells the user that the passwords do not match that. So after doing that, we need to clear the confirm password and the password fields. So this is how we clear the fields. We just put here double quotes, which means empty. So we have to clear those two fields. else we do this. So else we do var data equals to new form data, then data dot append. So when we are appending, we shall be giving the field name, the exact field name as it is in the table. Like here, name is like this, email, password. So we need to give the exact field name as it is here. So we go back here, then name. To the field name, we shall append the value name that was passed through the ID to the form. So we can just copy this and reuse. So name, email, like that, then email, then lastly we do password. So somebody may be wondering why we are not adding confirm password here. Remember, confirm password is only useful in the front end, that is in the user end, but we don't need to post it into the database. That is why even in our table we didn't create the field for confirm password. So confirm password is just used to ensure that the user enters the correct password that they can remember. Because if you give one field for the password, the user can enter a password that they may not even remember themselves. So confirm password is just to ensure that the user is sure with the password that they are creating. So this one doesn't end up in the back end. Instead, it just ends up in the front end like that. So after this, I just want us to do an alert of the data and see what data is it sending. So we shall just come back here to our application, then do a refresh, try to register. Let us register and see. So as you can see, you cannot proceed with the registration without actually filling in a username, a name that is. So let us just call this test user. Then under email, shall use an imaginary email, test user at gmail.com. Then password, let us just do 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. So as you can see, it is displaying in plain text, which should not be the case. So we need to come back here into our application, go to the HTML and then change this to type password from text. So this one changes to type password like that. Same to this one, which is no longer text, because the user doesn't, or no person is allowed to see what kind of password the user is entering. So it also change in the login form, changes to password. So we can come back here and refresh, then see. So register, can call it test user at gmail.com. Then 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5. So if we put it up to 5, let us see what will happen. As you can see, passwords do not match. So we need to enter the correct the same password for password and confirm password. So 1 2 3 4 5 6. We are 1 2 3 4 5 6. So register. Let us see what happens. No alert is coming up. Let's see. Let's go back to our JavaScript and see. So we can inspect elements. Just right click and inspect to see if there is any error coming up. So we come back here. So we wrote alert instead of alert, so we can just come back here and correct. So save, then refresh. So this is register, test user at gmail.com, 23456 1 2 3 4 5 6. Try to register. So it is telling us object form data. You can come back here and see. Anyway, so what we will do is this. We will not actually do form data. Let us remove form data. Then we will just, because we've already checked here whether passwords are matching or not. So what we can do, we can just serialize this form. You can use the serialize method because that one makes our work easier. So we shall just copy this reg form here, then paste, then dot serialize, like that. So after serializing the form, we can now do an AJAX call, AJAX like that. Then here we put a semicolon. So type is post, then URL. So
3, 2, 1.
we shall create a file within users, and that is a PHP file within users. Call it post login.php, like that. So it is within users. So while here within JS or JavaScript, we need to go back one step, then find users, then post login.php. So we go back one step, find users, then post login.php, put a comma, then data is the data that we serialized. This data is what you are passing here. Then success, we create a function, then through the function we create a variable called result. So we shall continue with this once we are done with here post login. So we create a PHP tags within this. So after this we need to include beacon.php file. We just put require once, then this. So to get to dbeacon, we need to go back one step. From here we go back one step up to connection, then dbeacon.php. So connection, then dbeacon.php. That is how it is. So after doing that, we need to check if is set posts. You can just pick one field here and check if it is set. Say just name the name field as semicolon because all of them are required. So once one is sent, then it means all of them will be sent. So just name, that is, we are picking the field name as opposed to the field ID. So this is what we are picking here. We are picking the name and not the ID. So back to post login.php. So if it sets post name, then we can start our code. So the first thing we are going to do is to create a query. So we just create a variable, not a query, but it's SQL. We create a variable SQL that first checks if the name, or not the name but the email, because in this case we are going to use the email as our unique key. So it checks if the email that has been provided already exists. So we select all from test users. Just confirm the name from the database. It is test users, which is okay. So we select all from test users, where email, remember to write the correct spellings. So email equals to, then we can check the email that was sent from the post. So post, then email, and because it is type var, we need to enclose it within single quotes. Then we will then do an SQL. We will do a query. So if my SQLi now, before you do that, we need to create a query. So variable qry equals to my SQLi query, then we are passing, remember in our dbcon here the connection name is con, so it's the same name that we are using here, con. Then we are passing our SQL like that. So we shall create an if statement and say if my SQLi num rows, that is, if the number of rows returned by this query qry is greater than 0, automatically this means that there's an email that exists for this particular, there's a matching email that exists already to the one that has been posted. So if my SQLi num rows query is greater than 0, then remember our global variable, we shall do another global variable here. So we just call it global, then we shall call it result. It's not a must that you call it result. You can call it anything. You can call it any name as long as it conforms to the rules for variable naming. So we shall call this global variable. Initially, this global variable will be assigned to empty or none, that is. Then we shall call it here and assign it to this. So we shall just call this exists like that. Then we do an else. That we create another query. So if it does not exist, then we are going to create an insert query. So we shall call this insert into tests users. Then we specify the fields that we are going to insert into. So we are going to insert into name, email, password, then values, so our values will be, the name is type string or varchar, so we need to enclose it within double quotes. So it is post name. Then email, I just want to copy this and reuse it here. So email will be post email. Then about the password, there's something I want us to do. Remember, the password has to be encrypted. We are not supposed, or it's not recommended that we post plain text passwords into our database, because that means whenever a hacker accesses the database, they can easily access the passwords and use them to access the user's account. So we shall use what we call MD5 algorithm to encrypt our password. So let us just call this, create a variable called pass, and now this is how we call MD5. So MD5, then we pass the password that was passed through the post. So post, then we shall call it password like that. So this is how we shall encrypt our password before posting it into the database. So post email, then after this we shall now post the encrypted password. Password becomes, now it is not post but it is pass, like that. Then we do if mysqli query connection con, then SQL. That means if this query executes successfully, then we can return a global. We can assign now success to our global variable like that. So having closed everything here, we can now echo JSON encode. It is here. Then we pass our global variable. That. So up to there, I want us to now come back to JavaScript post login with JS. So result, success function result. So result is what will be returned by this echo JSON encode. So this is what will be returned here in terms of result. So we want to check the type of result that is returned. But remember, in the last tutorial we saw that this result will come enclosed in double quotes, and we want to replace those double quotes with single quotes. So we shall do result equals to result dot replace. Then we want to replace every occurrence of double quotes, that this is a regular expression with single quotes. You want to replace every occurrence of double quotes with single quotes. That's what this regular expression does. So having done that, you now want to check if result equals to exists, if result equals to exists, then we do an alert to the user to tell them that, sorry, this email has already been used. That is if it exists. Else we can just copy this to make our work easier. So else if result equals to success, then you can say account successfully created. So before we continue, remember we set this reset token field as required. So we need to change because we are not posting any value. We are not going to post any value with it or to it. So we shall just tick null and save. Yes, so it is null, as you can see. So it will not give us problems when we try to post data into this into that table. So if result is success, account successfully created, then we can reset this form. After doing that, we can now reset the reg form. That is 0 dot reset. So we can do that. Then here you can choose either to reset the entire form or just to reset the email field. So let us choose to reset the email field. So dot var, then we give it empty like that. So that is how it is. Let us try to register a user here and see if it will work or not. So let us refresh this, then register. Then this one becomes test user. Email address testuser@gmail.com. Password 123456. Confirm password 123456. Let us just try to register and see. So as you can see, account successfully created. Let us check in our table to see if the records have been added. Let us just browse. So as you can see, the ID is 1, name is test user, email is testuser@gmail. So you can see this password has been encrypted. The password has been encrypted. It is not appearing in plain text. Then confirmed is 0, then reset token is 1. Is null. So that confirms that the account has been created. Let us try to recreate the same account and see what happens. We want to recreate the same account and see what will happen. testuser@gmail.com. Password 123456. 123456. Try to register. As you can see, sorry, this email has already been used. So we've successfully registered the account. So the next thing we are going to do is to log in with the account that we have registered. So come back to login we want to create a code that will enable us to log in here. So we come back to post login.js. So let us just confirm the field names before we can continue with login. So back to login, we give the field the ID. So username, we didn't give it the ID, so let us just, now instead of username, I want us to change it to email. This one becomes email. This one becomes email. There is a font or some icon that I want us to use. It is here, as you can see, TI or TI email. So this is what I want to use, because now we are not using a username, but instead we are using a user name, but instead we are using an email. I just want us to see how it appears first. So as you can see, this is the symbol of a user, but we want to change it to the symbol of an email because we are using an email. So let us just refresh this and see. So as you can see, it is now changing to email. Then this one is password. So I want us to give this an ID and name. So ID equals to email, then name equals to email. Put it in capital letters. Then something else we are going to do is changing the password, or giving the password also an ID. So ID equals to password, then name equals to password, like that. So required, remove the equal signs like that. So we can save. This is now okay. So yeah, it's okay. So what I want us to do is to create a status button here, or a status label at the top here that will show us whether when it is the login is processing. So just right below matrix admin, I want us to create a status label, or within div login. So let us just do div class equals to alert info. So it is an alert info type of div. So we can just close it there. Let us give it a name processing, like that. Then we can do a refresh here and see. So as you can see, it is now showing processing. So we want to hide this button by default, such that it will only appear when we click on login. So we can come back here, and remember the hidden element class that we created, you can still continue using it. So we just add it here, hidden element, like that. Then try to refresh and see. As you can see, it is now not appearing. So what we want to do is, once the user clicks on login, we will display the hidden button here, the hidden div which is showing the status. We shall display this once the user clicks on login. So login is
3, 2, 1.
Login is here. Yeah, login is here. So we will go back to JavaScript code and do this again. So we will do jQuery selector. The form name we need to look at the form ID, not form name. So the form ID is login form. So login form dot on, then we check the submit function. It is submit, not submit. Then function e, then we can proceed. So login form dot on submit, we first do e dot prevent default, so that the default action form does not work or is not invoked. Then the next thing we are going to do is to now display these div. So we need to give it an ID. Say just call it status div, like that, status div. So we need to display this div based on the ID. So status div, we need to display it based on the ID. So we shall come back here to our JavaScript, then we shall create another element here, which we shall call status div.
3, 2, 1.
Equals to document dot get element by ID status div. So that is how it is. So here what we will do is to do a status div dot style dot display equals to block. Now we want it to display. So let us just come back here to our code and see what will happen. So suppose we enter the email test user, then password, then we try to log in. As you can see, it's now showing processing, which means it is working. So the next thing we are going to do is, now after displaying block, we want to do var data equals to, now we want to get the login form, dot serialize. Then we can do an AJAX call, dot AJAX, then this one ends with semicolon. So type is post as usual, then URL, just want to copy this URL here. We are using the same URL as this one. Same to data. Let me just copy up to here. This part will remain the same. So that is how it will be. Yes. So we need to close this like that. So data is data. And so that one is okay. Then we come to our post login.php file here. Then we will check else if is set post. Now in this case we are going to check email, if the email has been set. Remember email, so the first one checks if the name has been set. Then this one checks if email, no, this one will not work. Let us come back to our code and check a few things. So our login button, login button. I want us to go back to our login button. It is here. So we just want to check the ID is btn register. Let us give it a name here. Name equals to login. So we want to check if login has been set or if you have clicked on login. So let us do if we set post login like that. That's based on the name. You can just echo here something like yes and see what will happen. So you can just do an alert here of the results that, and see which result will be returned. So let us refresh. Login. So email is test user, password is 12346. Let us see. So it is not returning anything. That means we have to recheck our code. So okay, this is what we are going to do. We are going to create some two hidden fields within these divs. We are going to create some two hidden fields. So our hidden field number one will be input type is hidden. It is hidden. Then name, initially name will be empty. We shall give it a name. We shall give it txt login, and ID will be txt login still. That is for the login form. Then we shall create another hidden field for the register form like this. So txt register register like this. So this is what we are going to do within post login.js. Within post login.js, when you click on register, the value of the register field will be set. When you click on register, the value of the register field will be set. So we shall get the field by ID. Txt register dot val will be register. Shall give it a value of register when you click on register, and when you click on login, we shall set the value of txt login to login. So because login is the default form that shows when a user opens the file or the link, then it is good for us to give it a default value. So this one we already have a value of login because it is default. So this value is already set. But if the user clicks on register, then remember login will be cleared. So we need to clear here login. When the user clicks on register, login will be cleared like that. And when the user clicks on login, register will be cleared like that. So that is how it will be. So back to our PHP code. Now here we are going to get the values of register. So just get a variable login and equate it to post. Because it is both of them are within the form, they'll be submitted within the form or together with the form. So that is why we can easily call them here and together. So if we call the post of txt login, that is the name of this hidden field. Txt login is the name of the hidden field. So if we do a post of txt login, we will get login. Then we can create another variable called reg and give it value of txt register. So we shall check if reg, this is the variable, so if reg is not equal to empty, then that means automatically it is a registration if reg is not equal to empty. Else if we check, now we are not checking if it is set, but we are checking if login is not equal to empty. By default that one becomes login. So let's just refresh here and see if it will work. So test user 1 2 3 4 5 6, then try to login. There is an error on line 4, unidentified index txt login on line 4. So let us come back here and see. Okay, we can come back to our code and see what name we gave it. So it is txt login, that is the name. So we can confirm here whether the name is the same. Txt login, txt register. Let us check our JavaScript code and see. So we are doing login form.serialize. Let us just confirm the name of the form. Login form.serialize. Okay, so we are back here. Back to our JS. So login form.onSubmit and login form.serialize. Let us just do here an alert of the data and see what it shows. Whether we are posting, whether it is passing login or not. So we can refresh here and see 1 2 3 4 5 6 login, showing nothing. Let us inspect the element and see. Okay, there is something we didn't do correctly here. Remember, we are using two forms here. We have the login form and the registration form. So under registration or under login, let us just change login because login has fewer fields. So under email, I just want us to change one thing, not one or two, one but two. So L email, we shall change email to L email. that, just to differentiate it from the email under registration to avoid conflict. So it is L email. Then password, I want us to call it, give it an ID of L password, and here it will be L password as well. So we can come back here. Okay, we can come back here and now try to do an alert of the data and see what it will show. No, the placeholder should not change. So where did I change? It is not the placeholder that is changing, but it is the name. So it is like that. So we can come back here and do a refresh. Then here we shall have test user at gmail.com. Password is 123456. Then login. Still not showing. Okay, let us put this alert here because we want to know what is happening. So alert, let us just say yes. Want to see if this code is executing or not. So can do a refresh here. Say test user 1 2 3 4 5 6. So up to there the code is executing properly, but once we get here it is like it is not working. So let us remove this first. So var data equals to login form dot serialize. So we are checking login form. ID is login form, which is okay. And let me check here just to ensure that there is no conflict. So the ID is login form. Oh, I can see the reason why it is not actually displaying well is because of this. We have an ID with the same name as this, so let us just call this div users to avoid the conflict, because it's like speaking the ID of the div and not the form. So we can save there, then do a refresh, then try to do test user 1 2 3 4 5 6. Try to save. So as you can see it is now working properly. So test login is login, as you can see. Now here txt register in C is not identified. Txt register is not identified. Let us try to do a registration and see. Let's just do registration. Test user. So as you can see here, we have an error for post login.js. Val is not defined on line 78, post login.js line 78. So you can come back to post login.js line 7. Val is not defined, so it's line 7. So this is supposed to be dot. That is the error that I made. So it's supposed to be dot. Same to this one here, same thing. So it is dot and not comma. So let us just do a refresh here. Try to register. Test user at gmail.com. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Then you can do registration. Still not working. Let us inspect. So there is something that is not working.
3, 2, 1.
Okay. We want to put here an else in case we get any response that is not among the two. We can just do an unknown error card like that. So in case we get a response that is not among the two, we can do an unknown error card. So we can refresh, then register. Test user 1 2 3 4 5 6. This is test user at gmail.com. 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Then try to register. So as you can see, a non-error card. I want to see which error actually occurred. So you can just call the result here. I want to call the result like that and see which error occurred. So we can do a refresh again. Try to register. Test user. Gmail 1 2 3 4 5 6. 1 2 3 4 5 6. Right. Then try to register. As you can see, txt login in BC post login.php. So we need to come back here
3, 2,
and check. That is in post login.php. Okay, so what we will do here is simple. Let us just use the method that we used previously, because when you look at users, you only have field name in the field name in registration. We don't have name in login. So that means if we can check whether name is set, that means we'll be registering. Otherwise we will be logging in. So we just do an else here, and we don't. That means if it is not set, then by default we will be logging in and not registering. So we can come back here and remove the hidden fields because they will no longer be necessary to us. But before we remove them, let us just confirm that this code is working first. Let us try to do test user, then 1 2 3 4 5 6, and try to log in. So invalid variable name, test login.php on line 4. So we can just come back and check here. So if is set, so it is not like that. You can just undo until we get there. So if is set post name, which is now okay, then we do else here, else here, then we can move this back like that. So back to our JavaScript, I want us to remove this code that we added here, this one, that. So remove that. So here in PHP, we'll check if name is set, because name only appears in registration. So whenever we come across name, then it means we are registering. Whenever we don't come across name, then we are logging in. That's where else comes in. Let us just try to log in and see if it will return yes or not. So we do a refresh here, then try to log in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Try to log in. There is an unidentified variable txt register in post login.php on line 5. Txt register on line 5. So we remove all this. They are not necessary. So we can try again and see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then okay, as you can see, it is now working. So the next thing we are going to do is to post this data, or to send this data to PHP for processing, then return the result to the user before we can determine the next action that will be taken. So here, we are already in PHP. So whatever we are going to do is to create a query, SQL equals to select all from test users where username, not username but email, equals to, then get the email that was sent by a post email, and or we can just find email first. Let us first find email, then we shall find password. So where email equals to the email that was sent through post, then we do a query. We do a query equals to mysqli query. We call the connection name con, then call SQL like that. After doing that, we want to check. So we want to create a variable row and assign it to mysqli fetch a sock. Remember I told you this one is used to search for rows, so it is not supposed to be. So if row equals to mysqli fetch a sock query, so we are fetching all rows returned by this query, then that means this email exists. The next thing we are going to do is to check if the password exists. So if now we are going to check the password that has been sent through the form and the password that has been stored. Remember, the stored password is already hashed or is already encrypted. So we have to encrypt the password that was sent through the form before sending. So if MD5, we should use the same algorithm that we used to hash the password that we stored. So we want to hash the password that was sent through post and compare it with the password that was stored. So the password is stored in this row, password, like that. So if the password that was stored, if the password that was stored is the same as the password that was passed through the form, then we'll do another global variable, result equals to exists. So a success not exists. Else we'll do a global variable. That means if these passwords do not match, then we say no match, like this, or wrong password. Wrong password. This is for the inner loop which is checking, or the inner if statement which is checking for the password. There is another outer one which is checking whether this email exists. So if the email does not exist, then we do an else and say email. That is the global variable again. Wrong email. That. So what will happen if the email and password are correct? We need to create what we call a session. So we shall just say session start. This is how you create a session. So you do session start, then we say session so we can say session user equals to row name. So we are going to set this the user or the username through the session, and this username will be used in the entire application. So if session user, no, we do a session start, then session user is row name, like that. Then that is before returning the result, so we shall put it there, because this session will assist us to know which user is logged in. Then we can now come back to JavaScript. We have three types of results: success, wrong password, wrong email. So we can come back to post login, then login form.onSubmit. We can still do a result equals to result.split, not dot split but dot replace. So we are replacing every occurrence of the double quotes with single quotes, like that. Then we check if result equals to success, then we will do a redirect to the main form. So we do a window.location.href equals to, so while in JS here, how do we get to home? We go back one step, like that. Then we go to home, one step, like that. Then we go to home. That one will be like that. Else, so this one redirects us to home through JavaScript. Else, we do what? We check if result equals to wrong password, then we do an alert. Wrong password, and once we get a wrong password, we will be required to clear the password field. So password dot value, then this one becomes empty like that. Else, so we can just copy this and use here. So else if, we can indent this a bit. So if result equals to wrong email, then this one becomes wrong email. Then we will have to, in this case, we have to reset the entire login form. So login form, 0 dot reset like that. Else, if there is any other error which does not fall among the ones above, then we just do an unknown error card like that. So we can close there. So I want us to go to index. I want us to go to home index, this one. Then let us just view this template the way it appears here. So home. So this is how the template appears. So we have here the user and we have the profile, balance, logout. So under this we want to change the name my profile to the name of the login user. So we shall come here. We shall come here and do this. Before we do anything else, we shall have a PHP code. PHP. So we will do a session start here. Session start as usual. Then we shall check if is set, then session. So our session is here. It is session user. So if we set session user, if we set session user equals to false, that means session user is not set. If we set session user equals to false, that means session user is not set. Then we do a header. So we'll do a header location. Remember, we shall enclose this in quotes. So header location, we now specify if this user session is not set. Anytime you call this file, then you should be redirected to login. So from home, how do you get to login? go back to home one step, then you go to users, then by default it goes to index.php. so this one will be checking anytime you run this code, and you can reuse the same code, or you can duplicate the same code anywhere else we shall be running any file, or in short, we can create another PHP file. Let me create it within connection to make our work easier. So we shall create another PHP file there, then post this one there. So we shall just be calling this PHP file instead of writing the code everywhere. So check connection.php. Shall be using that to check our connection. So that one saves us the time of writing the code in every place that we need it. So here we can just do a PHP include So how do we get to check connection? Go back one step, connection, then check connection.php, like that. So we can actually copy this code and duplicate it anywhere else we have our files. So you can put it in user is okay, doesn't require this index home. So you can still put it in index tests. We shall put it in index test. So this one is already there. Before we call the header, we shall need to this one is okay. So before we call the header, we shall include it there. So just remove this. So it will have to check first whether the session has been set before it can continue with the code. So yeah, this is now okay. Now this is what I want us to do. Remember, we passed the name through a session, so I want us to replace this name here, as I said. So we want my profile to change to the name of the login user. So shall just pick this session here, then we go to our index.php home, find my profile.
3, 2,
My profile is there. Let me just confirm. So yeah, it is there. So here we shall create some PHP code, PHP echo, then so we are going to echo the session user dot to string. We need to change it to string. So we are going to echo the session user. So this is for the main window, or the home window. We need to do the same in the header. So let us just go to the header, then find my profile. Just replace it with the logged in, the session of the logged in user. So let us just try to log in and see. So Here, before we log in, I want us to do one final thing. Under posttest.js, there is this, not posttest actually, but postlogin.js. There is now this div, a status div, which on successful login I want to hide. Which on successful login I want to hide before I redirect to home. So I want to do status div dot style dot display equals to none, like that. So I can come back here and
3, 2, 1.
now go back, refresh. Then I will do test user 1 2 3 4. Let us put up to 4 and see. Not working, right? So it is not performing the default action. Postlogin.js is not performing the default action, most likely because of caching. Let us just clear the cache. So go to settings, then search cache, clear the cache. Okay, it has cleared, so we can come back here, do a refresh and try to post. We are putting up to 5, still not showing. Let us try to change the browser. Let us try to change the browser and see. Inspect the elements, see if there's any error. Okay, so there's an error here in post unexpected postlogin.js line 81. Postlogin.js line 81, there's an error which has not been fixed. Okay, so this is where the whole issue is coming from. So we can now proceed with our application. Let us refresh and see. So we are not putting the correct password. Let's see, saying unknown error occurred. So we can always come back here and do an alert of the result. And see which kind of result is being returned. So we can do a refresh. 1 2 3 4 5. See, so it is telling us unidentified index email in postlogin.php line 25. So let us just do an echo of post email here. Post email and see what it returns. And before that, let us check in the form which variable did you use, or which name did we use. Now it is not email, but it is L email, and password is L password, that is why. So we are checking L email and L password. There's no need of doing this. We already identified where the problem is. So this is L email and this is L password. So we can now come back here, remove this alert, and continue. So we save, then we can come back here, refresh, then try to post again. So we are not putting the correct password, still showing unknown error. So let us just return the result again and see where the error is coming from. So it is test user 12345. Let us see. It is returning unknown error again. Okay, let us try to echo this query here. Echo SQL and see what it will return. Select all from test users where email is testuser@gmail.com. So that means that one is working properly. Then let me do an echo here. We just echo yes here and see if the code is reaching here or not. So refresh again and see. Okay, so it is reaching there. That means the problem is, let me do another. Another echo of the password that has been sent. So I can refresh here and see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Try to log in. Let me echo this password here, MD5. So I will do an echo of the MD5 password. Sent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hit login. So there it is actually working. I will create a variable here. I'll create a variable here called pass and equate it to the MD5, to the hash of the MD5, to the hash of the MD5 password that was sent through the form. So that here I just compare pass to the password now that has been returned through the row. So let me try to echo the one that was returned and see. Echo the password that was returned, or the stored password, and see. So I can refresh here and just see which you can see it is actually showing. So that means it is okay. So we can continue. So we can create pass and saved pass as two variables. So saved pass equals to Now this one is equal to the stored password. We can just put it there like that. Then we can try to equate the two here like that. Then see what will happen. Still returning empty. Okay, I can see why it is not working actually. We didn't return any JSON here, so we need to return, not to return actually, but to echo JSON encode, JSON encode. Then we can pass the global value. So this is the whole reason why code is not working. No problem with the code. The only problem was we didn't echo anything. That is why it wasn't working. So you can just do a refresh here, then try to log in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should not work. As you can see, wrong password. So once it brings wrong password, I want this processing to stop. So wrong password, processing stops. So I can copy this and paste it here. Still the same thing here. It should not actually display. So let us see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as you can see, wrong password. Now the processing disappears. But if we put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is our password, it will now redirect to the home page and still check under index.php home, then find. So let us remove this dot to string. Let's see. Need to remove dot to string. So connection failed to open stream on line 3. Check connection for illusion and path. Okay, so we have an error here which we need to actually correct. So include connection, check connection .php. Let me just check if this code is okay. So that is why it is not working actually. We needed to put there a slash. Same to, let us check the header. Where is the header? The header is here. Let us remove here dot to string. Then this one is okay. Let us check test index. So here we need to put a slash like that, which we didn't put. So we can refresh and see. So as you can see here, the name is now showing test user, which is the name of the user that has logged in. As you can see here, the name of the user that has logged in is test user. So we have successfully logged into the system with a valid email and password. So the last thing we are going to do here is to log out of the system. So on this logout, I want us to add a JavaScript function on logout. Let us just find logout. No, not there. So So let us just find logout, not under index actually, but under PHP, index.php home. We are finding logout. So under logout, we want to say on click equals to logout. So we shall do this here, and in the header, send to the header. Where is the header? The header is here. Let us find logout. Then we say on click is logout. So we have to include the login.js file, post login.js, within header.php, not header actually, but footer.php. Under script, we need to include post login.js, and within index home under scripts we still need to include post login.php. Still need to include post login.php. So we come to post login, not .php actually, but .js. We come to post login.js, then create a function. We will create a function called logout. So then once I click on logout, I will redirect. That means I will redirect via AJAX to post login.php and reset all the sessions, then redirect back to login. So I will create a variable called logout, and I set it to the value of logout. Then I will do an AJAX call, AJAX, then type will be post. No, this one is not okay. So I will do an AJAX call, type is post as usual. No, not that way. Type is post, URL. Let me just copy this URL because I'm using the same URL. Let me copy it to here. Let me copy it to here. So I will use this. So data. Now I'm going to pass this logout value to data. So I'll just assume this is a field name. So we are going to pass logout to PHP. Then the value will be logout, like that. Then success function. So once a value is returned, then what JavaScript will do will be to redirect to users, like that. It will be to redirect to users. Remember, index is the landing page, so there's no need of us indicating it here. So once a result is returned, it just redirects to users. So I'll go to I'll go to post login.php. Then I will do this. Before this else, I want to check else if is set posts. So I want to see if this logout here, post login.js, I want to see if this logout has been set. So if it's set post logout, then I will just return a global variable called logout. But before I return the global variable logout, I will unset
3, 2, 1.
the session. So I will do a session start, like that. Then I will unset this session here. We have this session, where is it? This session here is what I want to unset. So I can just copy this here and unset it. I want to clear its value so that once somebody is logged out, the session is cleared, and so somebody cannot log in or access any page without logging in. So I unset this session first before logging out, like that. So this one returns logout, then this one will be indented slightly. Yes. So this else actually should not be closed here. It needs to be closed down. So this one moves a step inside. Then this one closes this, and this one closes that. So we can try this one out and see once we log out. So just check our login.js. So let me just do here an alert of the result. Then we will continue.
3,
So
2,
here
1.
I want us to echo. It's okay, it can just be like this. So we can actually refresh. So when you come here, test user, try to log out. Is it working? Or let us see which kind of error it is showing. Inspect the elements to check if there is any error. So we are told logout is not defined at HTML elements.all. Click. Then there is post login.js line 106. A comma is expected. So post login.js line 106. No, this one is not supposed to be a comma. Actually, it's supposed to be a full colon. Let us see. That's why we're talking comma. Then logout is not defined on index 208. So logout is not defined. Let us see index.php home, post login.js. Once we are in index.php, that is home, we need to go back one step, then JS, then that way I think it is okay. So we can just close this, then try to do refresh, then try to log out. It is now returning empty. it is redirecting. Okay, so you can come back to post login.js.php and see if, let me just check this, if we set post logout, so we can just do an echo for post logout and see what it will do. Just confirm the names. It's okay. Let us error card, so we need to do something about this. Okay, so what we are going to do is simple. Under index home we shall find logout, then this logout I want us to change it to a button. I want us to change it to a button. Okay, so I want us to change it to a button. Now this one becomes button like that. So before this button, I want us to create a form here. Form ID equals to logout form. That. So within this form, we shall create a hidden element. Input type equals to hidden. Name equals to logout, like that. So and value equals to logout. So we can easily do this. We can just indent this. We can indent this. We can indent this. Then here we will close our form like that. So we shall do the same thing with header.php, just to ensure that we avoid issues. So we shall do the same thing header.php. So that one is okay. So what we will do is, first let us see how it appears. Login. It's not logging in. You can still correct it. So it is logout form. So that means we come back to post login.js. Then instead of doing function logout, we do logout form dot on submit. And I give it a type. Let me just see under header. Didn't save the type too. So under header, button type equals to submit. It has to be a submit button. Same to index home, button type equals to submit. that. So we can now continue. So dot on submit function e. So we can start there, then we shall close this here. So this is what you are closing here. So var logout, we don't need this, so just do var data equals to logout form dot serialize. Then data is data, like that. So I think this one is now okay. Dot location that href uses. So this is okay. So we need to check index post login.php. So we shall not need this one now. So we check as if is set post logout. We are checking if this logout has been sent here. If this one has been sent, that is the one that has been serialized through this form. So the form is here. We have a field called logout with the same value logout. We just check if it has been set. Then it means that we have called or clicked on logout. So the logout function will be executed. So I think the rest of the code will remain as it is. So just unset this session then return logout. So let us do a refresh and see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As you can see, it is now logging in. Then if we try to log out, let us try to log out. It is still not returning value. Yes, it is still not returning a value because we did not echo this JSON here. So that is the whole reason why it is not returning a value. So while we do this, or once we do this, it will now start working. So let us do test user 3, 4, 5, 6. Try to log in. It's logging in. Now try to log out. Is it logging out? Log out. Yes, it is now logging out. So we can actually close this out here because it is working. Let us just try it one more time. Test user 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Try to log in. It's logging in. Try to log out. It's logging out. Now we are now logged out. I want us to try to access a link or a page without logging in to see what will happen. So I want us to access test without logging in. And see, as you can see, it is still returning us to users because we need to log in before we can access any files or any pages. If we try to access home, as you can see, it is still returning us to log in because the session is not set. This is what is making us let me just come back here. You can see. So this is the code that is making it not to exit to connect. Like now here under index.php test, as you can see, there is this check connection.php that we created, which actually checks if the session user is set. If it is not set, this equals false means it's not set, then it redirects to users. So header location, this one is used to redirect to users. So we are using the same code here in home. We are putting it at the top. ensure you put this code at the top for it to work. So we are putting it here. The first thing we are checking is whether the session has been set. Then we can redirect. So this is we are just calling this check connection in every page, in index of PHP, in home, in index test, and in index form of PHP. So that is how it is working basically. So you can do test user 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, try to login. So because we are now logged in, we can check home. We are at home, yes, so we can just check test and see. So as you can see, test is now happening because we are logged in. You can even use the links to navigate test page. So as you can see, it is working perfectly because we are now logged in. So basically that is how you create or you do a login application in PHP. Please, if you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe. Also, this is to all viewers, please don't forget to like, share and comment on these videos, because by so doing you will help me understand which areas I need to improve on, or which kind of videos I need to do in order to ensure that you get the right skills. So this is the end of our video. Have a good time.